The evening was quiet in the small town where Mark lived. The streets were empty, and the soft glow of street lamps reflected on the wet pavement. Mark wiped his hands on a rag as he finished cleaning the last table in his small diner. The day had been long, just like every other day. He was a single father, raising his two children, Emily, who was 7, and little Sam, who was just 4. The diner was their only source of income, but lately, business had slowed down. Bills were stacking up and the weight of responsibility pressed on Mark's shoulders. Mark glanced at the clock. It was past 9 at night. The children were asleep in their small bedroom, tucked under warm blankets. Mark had been about to do the same when a sudden knock at the front door startled him. He frowned. Who could be visiting at this late hour? He wiped his hands again and cautiously walked toward the door. When he opened it, he could hardly believe his eyes. Standing on the porch was a small elderly figure unlike anyone Mark had ever seen. She looked human at first, with a gentle face lined with age and wisdom, but there was something unusual about her. Her skin had a soft, faint glow, and delicate antenna-like strands rose from her head, gently swaying with the night breeze. Her eyes were bright, calm, and full of knowledge, yet they carried a quiet sadness. "Good evening," she said softly. Her voice was melodic, calm, and comforting. I am lost. May I please stay here for the night?" Mark's heart skipped a beat. He had grown used to the ordinary troubles of life, but this was extraordinary. He wanted to ask questions to know where she had come from, but something in her eyes stopped him. There was no threat there, only a quiet plea. He hesitated. "It's late," he said cautiously. "Are you okay?" "You look tired." She nodded slowly. "Yes, I am tired. I only need a place to rest for a few hours. I will leave in the morning." Mark's mind raced. Part of him wanted to refuse. He had 2 children to protect and a home that was small and worn. Yet another part of him, the part that had always felt empathy for anyone in need, nudged him to help. He took a deep breath. "All right," he said finally. "You can come in, just wait here while I get some tea." The elderly alien stepped inside carefully, moving with a grace that was almost floating. Mark followed her into the kitchen, where he quickly poured hot tea into 2 mugs. The kitchen was small and cluttered with dishes and papers, but it was warm, with the faint smell of bread and coffee lingering in the air. "Thank you," she said, her glowing skin catching the light. She took the mug gently and sipped, her eyes softening with appreciation. Mark sat across from her at the small table. You don't look like anyone I've ever seen before," he said cautiously, trying to make conversation. She smiled faintly. "I am not from here," she said simply. "I travel to learn, to see, and sometimes to understand those who are different from me." Mark nodded, unsure what to say. He had never imagined meeting anyone like her, let alone letting her into his home. Yet her presence was strangely calming. She spoke in a quiet, thoughtful way, and somehow her words seemed to slow the frantic pace of his thoughts. "Do you have children?" she asked suddenly, her gaze shifting toward the stairs where he knew Emily and Sam slept. "Yes," Mark replied. 2, they're asleep now." He felt a sudden wave of protectiveness. "I hope you won't disturb them." "I would never disturb them," she said gently. "Children need peace. I only wish to rest and speak with you for a while." The alien woman moved with quiet steps, exploring the small living room. She examined the furniture with a curious eye, her hands hovering above surfaces without touching. She seemed fascinated by the simple things: a small framed photograph of Mark with the children, the worn couch, even the modest bookshelf. Her gaze lingered on a drawing Emily had made, a crayon picture of their family under a bright sun. Mark watched her silently. It was strange to see someone so unusual respond with such gentle interest to ordinary things. He found himself relaxing, forgetting for a moment about bills, responsibilities, and the stress of life. "Your home is humble," she said finally, "but it carries warmth. That is rare." Mark felt a small smile tug at his lips. "It's all I have," he admitted. "Some days it feels like it's never enough." The alien woman nodded slowly. "What you have is enough. Love, care, and kindness are more than enough. Many beings spend centuries seeking what you already possess." Her words surprised him. He had been so focused on survival, on making ends meet, that he rarely thought about what really mattered. Her gentle presence, her quiet wisdom, made him feel seen in a way he hadn't felt in a long time. For a while they sat in silence, sipping tea. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, and the soft hum of the town at night seemed far away. It was a peaceful moment, the kind Mark had not allowed himself in years. He felt an unusual comfort, as if the world had slowed down just for them. Finally, the alien woman spoke again. "You do not know me. I do not know you fully. And yet here we are sharing this moment. There is meaning in such encounters." Mark looked at her, puzzled. "Meaning?" "Yes," she said, her eyes glinting softly. "Sometimes the smallest act, opening your door to a stranger, can change everything. One night can alter a life in ways you cannot yet imagine." Mark felt a shiver run down his spine. He did not fully understand what she meant, but he believed her. He had never met anyone like her before, and yet something deep inside told him that letting her in had been the right choice. Night deepened, and soon the alien woman prepared a small place to rest in the living room. Mark showed her where she could lie down, covering her with a soft blanket. She thanked him quietly, a small smile on her face, and closed her eyes. Mark watched her for a moment before heading to the kitchen to tidy up. He thought about his children, his tired body, and the endless worries that filled his days. Yet despite the challenges, he felt a strange sense of hope. Perhaps he thought some things, unexpected visitors, moments of trust, could bring light into even the darkest days. As he turned off the lights and prepared to go upstairs, Mark paused at the doorway. The alien woman slept peacefully on the couch, her glow soft and steady. He did not know what the future held, but one thing was clear. This night, this simple act of kindness had started something new. Something that could change everything. The next morning, sunlight crept through the small kitchen window, spilling warmth onto the table. Mark was already up, preparing breakfast for Emily and Sam. The smell of fresh toast and warm milk filled the air. He tried not to think too much about the strange visitor from the night before, yet her presence lingered in his mind. The children stirred, yawning and rubbing their eyes, curious about the unusual visitor. "Mommy?" Emily asked sleepily. "Where is she?" Mark smiled softly. "She's still here, just for a little while," he said, keeping his voice calm so the children wouldn't feel nervous. Sam climbed onto a chair and stared at the elderly alien woman sitting quietly at the table. Her hands folded, watching them with a gentle expression. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice carrying the same calm warmth as last night. "You both slept well?" Emily nodded. "Yes, but who are you?" The woman's glowing eyes softened. "I am someone who needed a safe place to rest. You are safe here. That is all that matters." She smiled, and the children felt no fear. There was a kindness in her expression that made them feel like she had always been part of their home. Mark served breakfast, and for a moment, the house was filled with quiet laughter and chatter. Emily talked about school and her drawings, while little Sam babbled about his favorite toys. The alien woman listened, asking questions in her soft, careful way. She seemed genuinely interested in every word the children said, and Mark noticed how they responded with excitement, eager to share their stories. After breakfast, Mark watched as the woman moved through the small home with gentle curiosity. She picked up a small, worn-out toy truck, turning it in her hands. Her glowing fingers brushed lightly over its surface. "You love this, don't you?" she asked Sam, who nodded eagerly. "It brings you happiness." Mark was struck by how careful she was. She handled everything as if it were precious, as if she could sense the stories each object carried. You notice a lot, don't you?" he asked. "I notice what is important," she replied simply. "Small things tell much about the lives of those who care for them." Mark felt a quiet admiration for her. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, wise, patient, and observant. Yet she was not overbearing. She did not judge him for his tired eyes, the messy living room, or the small pile of bills stacked on the counter. Instead, she simply existed among them, bringing a calm sense of order and understanding. When the children went back to play, Mark and the woman sat at the table. "Why are you here?" he asked carefully, curiosity getting the better of him. "You said you were lost, but I don't understand. You're not from here, are you?" "No," she said quietly. "I am not from this world. I travel to observe, to learn, and sometimes to offer guidance. I watch how others live, how they care for one another, and what they value most." Mark nodded slowly. I see. And you came to me?" "Yes," she said simply. "I came to you because of your kindness. Even when life is hard, even when you struggle, you showed compassion. That is rare. That is why I am here." Mark felt a warmth in his chest he had not felt in a long time. He had never considered himself particularly kind. He had been too busy surviving, working, and making sure his children had what they needed. Yet this stranger, this alien woman, saw something in him that he had overlooked. For the next few hours they spoke quietly. The alien shared stories of her travels, describing faraway worlds with colors, creatures, and skies unlike anything Mark had ever imagined. She spoke of cities that floated in the air, oceans that glowed at night, and forests that sang when the wind passed through them. The children who had wandered back to listen sat wide-eyed, absorbing every word. Their laughter and questions filled the room, turning the small house into a space of wonder. "Is that real?" Emily asked, her eyes shining. "Every word," the alien replied with a soft smile. "The universe is full of beauty and mystery. Some of it is difficult for humans to imagine, but it is real nonetheless." Mark watched his children, fascinated. For the first time in many months, the house felt alive. The alien's presence had created a sense of calm and curiosity that had been missing for so long. The children were happy, and Mark felt a growing sense of hope. Later, as the day progressed, the woman helped quietly around the house. She fixed a leaky faucet in the kitchen, straightened the cluttered shelves, and even folded the children's laundry. Her movements were gentle but precise, showing a skill and patience Mark had rarely seen. "You carry a heavy burden," she said quietly as she worked. "Sometimes it is okay to let others help." Mark felt a lump in his throat. He had always tried to do everything himself, afraid to ask for help or burden others with his problems. Yet her words made sense. Sometimes he realized, strength did not come from doing everything alone, but from accepting help when it was offered. As evening approached, the alien woman sat with Mark on the porch, watching the sun sink below the horizon. The sky was painted with shades of orange and pink, and the air was filled with the soft sounds of the town settling down for the night. "Why did you choose me?" Mark asked softly. "There are so many people in the world. Why my home?" "Because of what I saw," she replied. "Even when your life is difficult, you show care and patience. You help your children, you work hard, and you do not give up. Many beings in the universe lack that kind of courage and heart. That is why I am here." Mark did not know what to say. Her words were simple, yet they carried a truth that touched him deeply. For the first time in years, he felt appreciated, not for his work or his success, but for his heart, his willingness to care despite hardship. The children joined them on the porch, and together, they watched the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. The alien woman pointed to constellations and told them stories of distant galaxies, of planets filled with glowing forests and creatures that danced in the night. Emily and Sam listened in awe. Their imaginations sparked in ways they had never experienced before. "Can we see them one day?" Emily asked hopefully. "Perhaps," the woman replied. "The universe is large and many wonders await. But even here on your world there are mysteries and beauty waiting to be discovered. You only need to open your eyes and your heart." Mark felt a calm settle over him. He realized that this night, this day filled with stories, laughter, and quiet lessons, was the beginning of something new. Something important. The alien woman had not only come to rest, but to show him and his children that life could be more than just survival. That wonder, hope, and kindness could still exist even in difficult times. As night fell, Mark tucked his children into bed and glanced at the living room where the alien woman rested. He felt a quiet gratitude he could not fully explain. The ordinary rhythms of his life had been touched by something extraordinary. And deep inside he knew that their encounter would change everything, even if he could not yet understand how. The next morning, Mark woke to the soft hum of the alien woman moving in the kitchen. She was already preparing a small breakfast for him and the children, simple food yet presented with care. He paused in the doorway, watching her work. There was a quiet grace in everything she did, from the way she arranged the plates to how she poured milk without spilling a drop. "Good morning," she said, turning her glowing eyes toward him. "Sleep was peaceful?" Mark nodded. "Yes, better than it has been in a long time." Emily and Sam joined them at the table, still rubbing the sleep from their eyes. "Good morning," Emily said politely, her curiosity shining bright. She looked at the alien woman with wide eyes. "Did you really come from far away?" "Yes," the woman replied softly, smiling. "Very far, but I am here now and that is what matters." Mark felt a small warmth in his chest. Somehow, the alien's presence made ordinary things like breakfast and conversation feel extraordinary. It was as if her calm energy had touched every corner of their small home, making the house feel lighter, safer, and full of possibility. After breakfast, the alien woman moved quietly around the house, helping where she could. She fixed a leaky faucet in the bathroom with careful hands, adjusted the crooked frame of a picture on the wall, and even straightened the children's toys, gently placing them in order. Mark watched in quiet amazement. She did not act as if she were superior or in control. She simply moved with kindness, seeing what needed care and attending to it without a word of complaint. "You make this house feel different," Mark said quietly. "Like it breathes better." She smiled faintly. "A home reflects the hearts within it. I help it shine, but it is your care that gives it life." Mark nodded, feeling a new awareness of how small acts could make a difference. He had been so focused on survival that he had never considered the power of attention, patience, and kindness in creating a safe space. As the day went on, the alien woman helped the children with their schoolwork. Emily struggled with her reading and Sam was learning to count. She did not scold or rush them. Instead, she guided gently, asking questions and encouraging them to think for themselves. The children responded eagerly, their confidence growing with each small success. Mark watched, feeling pride and hope swell in his chest. Later he stepped outside with her, needing a moment of fresh air. The evening sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. The wind carried a soft coolness that eased the tension in his shoulders. "Your life is not easy," she said quietly, her glowing eyes fixed on him. "I see your struggles, your fears. Yet you continue. That is remarkable," Mark sighed. "Some days I wonder if I'm doing it all wrong. The diner barely makes money, bills pile up, and I have to make sure the kids are fed and happy. I feel like I fail more than I succeed." "Failure is not what you think," she said calmly. "It is simply a step on the path. The path is not straight. You care, you try, you protect. That is strength. That is what matters." Mark listened, feeling her words seep into his heart. He realized she was right. His life had been hard, but he had not given up. He had continued quietly, day by day, caring for his children, holding the family together even when he was exhausted. She paused, looking at him with wise eyes. "Sometimes strength is not just in what you do alone, but in what you allow others to do with you. Accept help and your burden will be lighter." Mark thought about this carefully. He had always tried to do everything himself, afraid of being weak. Yet, seeing her gentle presence, helping without asking, guiding without forcing, he began to understand. Help was not weakness. Help was connection, and connection could create strength beyond what one person could achieve alone. That evening, Mark faced a small crisis. The diner's stove broke down, leaving him unsure how to prepare meals for the next day. Panic rose in his chest, and he wondered how he could manage the cost. The alien woman noticed his worry immediately. "You are worried," she said softly. "Do not let fear rule your mind. Let us find a way together." Mark blinked. "Together? I don't know how you can help with this," she smiled faintly. "I have seen many ways to solve problems. Sometimes it is simply a matter of perspective. Let us think carefully and we will find a solution." They worked together, brainstorming options for repairing the stove or temporarily adjusting the menu. The alien's ideas were practical yet creative, offering solutions Mark had not considered. Slowly, his panic subsided, replaced by a calm determination. With her help, he realized that problems could be approached with patience, thought, and cooperation. After a long day, Mark returned home with the children. The house was filled with laughter and warmth, and the alien woman had prepared a small surprise, a simple game for the children that encouraged imagination and creativity. Emily and Sam played eagerly, their joy echoing through the small home. Mark watched, amazed at how her presence had transformed the atmosphere. The house felt lighter, happier, and full of hope. That night, as the children slept, Mark sat with the alien woman in the living room. The soft glow of her skin lit the room gently, and her calm presence offered a peace he had not felt in years. "You have changed much in just a short time," she said quietly. "Not because I came here, but because you allowed yourself to see possibilities, to accept care, and to open your heart." Mark thought of the day, the small victories, and the calm that had settled over his home. He realized she was right. Even small changes, small acts of guidance and attention, could make a profound difference. He had begun to see life in a new light, and he knew that things would never be quite the same again. "Thank you," he said softly, his voice steady. I don't know how to say it, but thank you for being here." "You need not thank me," she replied with a gentle smile. "You thanked yourself by being willing to accept kindness and to care. That is enough." Mark nodded, feeling a quiet hope grow inside him. The world seemed a little larger, a little more possible, and a little brighter. He did not know exactly what the future held, but he felt stronger, supported, and ready to face the challenges ahead. And as he glanced at the alien woman resting peacefully nearby, he realized that some meetings, some nights, some moments, could change the course of a life forever. The ordinary struggles of survival had been touched by something extraordinary: trust, connection, and the quiet power of guidance and care. The morning sun streamed through the small kitchen window, and Mark woke with a mixture of determination and worry. The diner had faced yet another rough week. Orders were fewer than usual, and the bills continued to pile up. Mark rubbed his tired eyes and glanced at the living room where the alien woman sat quietly, her glowing presence soft and calm. Somehow her presence made the day seem less daunting. "Good morning," she said gently. "I see your worries. Do not carry them alone," Mark sighed. "I don't know how not to," he admitted. "There is always something wrong. An unpaid bill, a broken stove, fewer customers. I feel like I'm drowning." "You are not drowning," she replied softly. "You are learning to swim, and even the strongest swimmers sometimes need a hand." He looked at her, unsure what to say. She had a way of speaking that made ordinary words feel full of meaning. He realized she was right. He had been trying to solve everything alone, but perhaps there were ways to manage his struggles more wisely. That morning, after the children had left for school, the alien woman suggested they visit the diner together. Mark hesitated. He was used to handling the business himself. Yet something about her calm confidence encouraged him to trust her. When they arrived, the alien woman observed quietly, her eyes scanning the room and noting small ways to improve the space. "Your diner is simple, but it has warmth. That is its strength. Small changes can make it even better," she said. Mark followed her advice. She suggested rearranging tables to make the room feel more welcoming, adding small decorative touches like fresh flowers, and speaking warmly to each customer, making them feel seen and appreciated. At first, Mark was skeptical, but he tried her ideas. Slowly, he noticed changes. Customers smiled more, lingered longer, and even recommended the diner to others. Throughout the day, she guided him with subtle wisdom. She showed him how to organize the kitchen to work more efficiently, how to plan menus that used fewer ingredients but remained delicious, and how to greet customers in a way that made them feel at home. Mark realized that her guidance was not magic. It was careful observation, patience, and understanding of human behavior. Yet the results were remarkable. That evening, as they closed the diner, Mark leaned against the counter, exhausted but satisfied. "I can't believe how much difference these small changes make," he said quietly. "It's like the diner has come alive." The alien woman smiled softly. "It was always alive," she said. "You just needed to see it differently and to see yourself differently." Mark nodded, feeling the weight of her words. For years, he had focused on problems, struggles, and what he lacked. Now he realized that perspective mattered. Small actions, small changes, and the courage to accept guidance could create new possibilities. Back at home, the children greeted them with laughter. Emily proudly showed a drawing she had made, inspired by the alien woman's stories of distant worlds. Sam ran in carrying his favorite toy truck, eager to tell her about his adventures. The alien woman listened patiently, asking questions and encouraging their imagination. "You two are clever and kind," she said softly. "Remember, even small acts of thoughtfulness make the world better." Mark felt a warm pride watching his children. He realized that they had grown in just a few days, learning patience, curiosity, and compassion. He had grown too, gaining confidence and hope. Later, as the sun began to set, a sudden problem arose. The diner's supplier called with a mistake in their order, leaving Mark unsure how to get enough ingredients for the next day. Anxiety rose in his chest, but the alien woman remained calm. "Problems are like rivers," she said. "You cannot stop them, but you can learn to navigate. Let us think together." They sat at the kitchen table, reviewing options carefully. She suggested small substitutions in the menu, ways to borrow or trade ingredients with nearby businesses, and even simple marketing ideas to attract more customers. Mark felt a sense of relief. Her guidance was practical, thoughtful, and patient. He realized that challenges were not impossible. They were opportunities to apply wisdom and creativity. That night, after the children were asleep, Mark sat with the alien woman on the porch. The sky was dark, but the stars shone brightly, reminding him of the vastness of the world and the possibilities it held. "You have taught me something important," he said quietly. "Even when life is hard, there is always a way forward. Sometimes I just need guidance and to accept help." She smiled gently. "Yes, strength is not only in what you do alone. Strength is also in knowing when to ask for help, when to learn, and when to trust others. You have begun to see this, and it will carry you far." Mark felt a quiet gratitude. This small elderly visitor, this alien woman, had changed the way he saw life. She had shown him patience, perspective, and the importance of connection. His world, once heavy and exhausting, now felt lighter, filled with hope and possibility. The next few days passed in a gentle rhythm. The alien woman continued to guide him subtly, never forcing, always suggesting. She taught him ways to organize his home, plan meals, and balance work with family time. She also helped him connect with the children more deeply, showing patience and creativity in handling small disagreements and teaching moments. Mark noticed a change not only in his home and business, but also in himself. He felt calmer, more confident, and more hopeful. He no longer felt overwhelmed by every small problem. Instead, he approached challenges with patience, thinking through solutions carefully and accepting guidance when offered. One evening, as they sat quietly together, the alien woman spoke softly. "Your life is not perfect. There will still be struggles. But you now have the tools, the perspective, and the heart to face them. You are not alone, and you do not need to be. This is the change I came to see." Mark looked at her, feeling a deep respect and gratitude. He realized she had not only helped him with practical matters like the diner, the bills, and the household chores, but had also changed something deeper. She had helped him see hope where he thought there was none, strength where he thought he was weak, and connection where he had felt isolated. That night, as the house grew quiet and the children slept peacefully, Mark reflected on how far he had come in just a few days. He had opened his door to a stranger, and that small act of kindness had brought guidance, perspective, and hope into his life. He realized that sometimes life's greatest changes began with a single decision: to trust, to care, and to accept the help of someone who only wished to bring light into your life. And as he looked at the alien woman resting quietly in the living room, glowing softly in the dim light, he knew that the encounter had transformed more than just his home. It had transformed him, his children, and the future of their small family. The ordinary world they lived in had become extraordinary, touched by kindness, wisdom, and a quiet presence that had shown them all how to thrive, even in the hardest times. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, painting the small room in a golden glow. Mark stood at the counter preparing breakfast for Emily and Sam. He moved with ease now, his energy renewed and calm. Life had been hard, but after days of guidance and gentle care from the alien woman, he felt stronger and more confident. The diner was doing better, the house felt lighter, and his children were happier and more engaged. Emily and Sam ran into the kitchen, excited as always. "Good morning," Emily chirped. "Are we going to have pancakes today?" Mark smiled warmly. "Yes, pancakes it is." He glanced toward the living room where the alien woman sat quietly, her soft glow filling the space. She looked at him and nodded, as if to say that she was ready to leave soon. Mark felt a small pang in his chest. Though she had been with them only a few days, her presence had become a comfort, a guide, and a friend. After breakfast, the alien woman called Mark aside. "It is time for me to continue my journey," she said softly. "I came to your home to rest, to observe, and to offer guidance. My mission here is complete." Mark nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. I understand. Thank you for everything. I don't know how to explain it, but you changed our lives." She smiled faintly. "No need for words. You already understood the lessons I wished to share. You opened your heart, accepted help, and allowed kindness to grow in your home. That is all anyone can do to change their life." The children gathered around, sensing something important was happening. Emily held the alien woman's hand carefully. "Will we see you again?" she asked softly, her eyes wide. "Perhaps one day," the woman replied. But even if you do not remember the lessons, kindness, patience, trust, and hope will guide you always. You carry them within you. Sam, clutching his toy truck, looked up shyly. "I will remember," he said simply. The alien woman's eyes glowed softly. "That is all I ask." Mark led her to the porch, the children following closely. The air was warm and gentle, and the sky was painted with the soft colors of morning. She paused at the doorstep, looking back at the small home she had spent a few days in. "This house is full of love," she said softly. "It is more than bricks and wood. It is the hearts within that make it strong. You have shown that even in hardship, a family can thrive when care and kindness are present." Mark felt a lump in his throat. "You made me see what I couldn't before. I was so focused on problems that I forgot what really matters. I see it now. Our family, our home, the small joys, they are more important than anything else." The alien woman nodded gently. "And that is why I came. To remind you, and through you, to remind others that small acts of kindness and attention can change everything. You opened your door, and in doing so, you opened your heart. That is powerful." The children waved as she stepped onto the path leading away from the house. Emily's small hand stayed raised. Sam's toy truck clutched tightly. Mark stood silently, watching as she walked into the distance. She moved with a grace that seemed almost to float, disappearing into the horizon until she was just a soft glow fading into the morning light. Mark turned back toward the house, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and hope. The alien woman was gone, yet her presence lingered in the warmth of the home, the laughter of the children, and the renewed sense of possibility that filled his heart. He felt ready to face whatever challenges life might bring, armed with patience, kindness, and a new perspective. Days passed and life continued. The diner thrived with the small changes she had suggested, and customers began returning regularly, drawn not only by the food but by the warmth and care in the atmosphere. Mark greeted each person with attention and kindness, creating a space where people felt welcome and appreciated. The alien woman's lessons had not been magical. They had been practical, thoughtful, and centered on the heart. Emily and Sam grew more confident. Emily read aloud with joy, sharing her stories and drawings. Sam learned to count and build little towers with his blocks, his imagination thriving. The children's laughter and curiosity filled the home, and Mark felt a sense of pride and gratitude he had not known in years. One quiet evening, Mark sat on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the stars begin to appear. He thought about the elderly alien woman who had knocked on his door in the middle of a quiet night. That simple act, allowing her into their home, had sparked a series of changes that reshaped their lives. He realized that sometimes the smallest decisions, made with kindness and trust, could ripple into great change. He smiled softly, thinking of her words, that even in hardship, love, patience, and hope could make life better. He felt stronger, not because the problems had disappeared, but because he now had the courage and tools to face them. He knew he would always remember the lessons she had shared, the quiet guidance, the gentle wisdom, and the reminder that connection could be the greatest strength of all. The children ran past, playing a game of tag on the small yard. Mark laughed watching them and felt a sense of peace settle in his heart. Life was still full of challenges, but it was also full of joy, growth, and love. He had been reminded of the beauty in ordinary moments, the power of kindness, and the importance of trust. And though the alien woman had left, her presence remained, in the renewed diner, in the laughter of his children, and in the hope that now shone in Mark's heart. The night she knocked on his door had changed everything. It had reminded him that even a single act of kindness, even the decision to trust a stranger, could transform a life. Mark looked up at the stars again and whispered quietly, "Thank you for showing me the way." He did not know if she could hear him, but he felt the gratitude deep in his heart. It was a night, a meeting, and a connection he would never forget. It was a reminder that life, though sometimes hard, was always full of possibilities when one opened their heart. The home was peaceful, filled with the warmth of a family stronger than before. Mark knew that no matter what came next, he and his children could face it together. And somewhere out there, the elderly alien woman continued her journey, carrying the knowledge that even the smallest acts of trust and care could make the universe a brighter place. Life had changed forever. Not because of magic or luck, but because of kindness, empathy, and the courage to let someone in.